Want to welcome you. We're basically going to be covering resume tip number 2 in this video. Before I do so though, the biggest thing about this tip that you need to know is this tip is probably more geared towards a cover letter. You'll notice if you come to our website here, the freeresume-tips.yolasite.com, that there is a cover letter tips section. And so if you click on that, you'll be able to get some very basic tips, very specific tips as well, on how to create a cover letter and what kind of details you want to put in that cover letter. It'll actually go into detail for this resume tip fairly, in a lot more detail than I'm going to on this video. But the biggest thing about this tip, you could still use it on your resume. One of the most common places to use this particular tip would be in a summary at the top or a summary of qualifications, or sometimes you'll have folks that'll say, oh, okay, I'm seeking such and such. If you're going to use that type of section on your resume, then this tip may work very well for that. So the resume tip number 2 is basically paying attention to needs that are hidden. And what I mean by that is when an employer places an advertisement, oftentimes there are items in that advertisement that are not necessarily outlined. They may not have a specific bullet point for it, but the reality is they're basically going to be revealing some critical pieces that they need in order to have somebody that they're going to consider to be qualified for this position. As a result, these are items you may want to cover within your resume in a very detailed format, or at least in a cover letter where you can outline some of these skill sets and how you can basically address those needs. And so in doing this, you need to identify and basically anticipate the range of needs that you're going to need, so that when you do address it in a cover letter, you can go ahead and address those needs accordingly. So to kind of show you how this works, what I did is I just simply pulled up a Craigslist posting here really quick on a director of human resources. It looks like this one is in Las Vegas. So in pulling this up, one of the first things you'll see is you're going to be guiding a team of 3 professionals. If that's the case, obviously you're going to need some type of manager experience, some type of leadership experience. And so if there are some examples in your background where you can recall that, hey, you know what, I've guided people, I've directed people, I've managed people, there's definitely some skill sets that they're going to need for this particular position. Keep in mind, when an employer posts a position, they're in need of somebody, or there may be a situation where they're really failing as an organization, or they're really struggling as an organization within this particular field or this particular area. If that's the case, then you want to kind of pay attention to some of these hidden things, if you will, that the employer is revealing within the job description itself. And so if I look at the rest of this, this will include the payroll, benefits, things like that, internal communications. Right here, culture building and internal communications. If that's the case, if they're putting this, and more specifically, they actually use the word heavy emphasis on compensation, equity, employee relations, and development of policies and procedures. This right here, if I was looking at the hidden meaning of this, there are probably issues that this company has in those areas. There are probably, and maybe they've got something in place, but maybe it's not very solidified. If they're struggling with the development of those policies and procedures, maybe they don't even have anything in place yet. If that's the case, this is a great opportunity to kind of see this hidden gem of information about this position, where you can basically, in a cover letter or in a brief summary, address that particular need. You can talk specifically about experience that you may have had where building the culture, building those internal communications, perhaps creating policy and procedures, or developing better employee relationships within the organization. This is a great way to show that you are able to handle this position and would be a good quality fit for this role. And so while this company in particular doesn't say, hey, we need help in this area because we're suffering or it's poorly managed, etc., they at least list it. If they're willing to list it, that probably means they need some help in those areas. And so, this is one of those hidden things. And so pay attention to things like that. I could probably go through a few of these other bullet points here, and you could kind of look through the same thing. But I wanted to show that one to you in particular, because as I'm reading this, that really stuck out to me. And so as you're going through this, you'll notice that there's a section here, advise and train junior generalists. In regards to development and cross-training, maybe that generalist just doesn't have as much experience, and so this is going to be a great opportunity to be able to train this individual on those particular items. And especially it says separation processes. Separation processes is a difficult thing within HR. If I was in a background of HR and I knew that there was a separation process where I was either letting people go, laying people off, et cetera, obviously that's a very delicate situation, and maybe they're struggling in that area. Maybe as they're letting people go or trying to, stick with the guidelines and compliance that comes along with that, they may be struggling in that area, and this junior general is not basically meeting the par, if you will. So again, look for those hidden meetings, look for those hidden gems. Companies are not always going to come out and say it, especially in an advertisement. But the nice part about this is if you kind of pay attention to the advertisement, you might be able to pick up on some of those hidden gems of information that will help you better address the needs, because our biggest goal is to try to get that interview with our resume. And if I can show you that I am very good at addressing those particular needs, then there's probably a surefire bet that you are going to be called to come in for an interview, at which point you can go ahead and sell yourself and hopefully land an offer at that point. So that's tip number 2. Again, you just want to look at those hidden gems and go ahead and have success.